Good morning, Brew Daily Show. I'm Neal Freyman.
And I'm Toby Howell.
Today, Ford is giving up its family heirloom, the assembly line.
Then Nvidia and AMD can resume exporting their AI chips to China with a catch. It's Tuesday, August 12th. Let's ride.
You know what we haven't done in a minute, Toby?
Eat a vegetable?
Bar trivia, which is why we are bringing it back. Toast to the end of the summer with MBD Trivia Night next Tuesday, August 19th, where you'll be able to meet us, talk to fellow listeners, and if you've got a crack squad of a team, win a Morning Brew Daily mug. It'll take place in downtown Manhattan. Sorry, out-of-towners. We will get to you at some point, I promise. But Toby, what are the other details people need to know?
The details. To sign up, it's free. Just head to the link in the show description and bring your friends. You are allowed to add a +1 when you sign up, but I also recommend tossing the link in your group chat, the Smart Friend group chat, that is, to roll up with a squad. If you have no smart friends, bring your dumb ones for the vibes. But yes, can't wait to see you all there. Our third MBD Trivia Night in New York City next Tuesday. Sign up at the link in the show description. And now a word from our sponsor, LinkedIn Ads. Neal, I've been getting the wildest ads online lately. I'm getting email after email about a procedure to lengthen your arms.
Are you going to do it?
No, I do not have T-Rex arms, no matter what you or my father says. But the truth is, we are inundated with useless ads like this every day. A big part of that is because marketers are wasting their time and money.
LinkedIn ads can help you stop wasting resources like money, time, and effort, like 71% of B2B ads. They can find the right audience for your brand and even extend your reach.
How dare you? They've got over 130 million decision makers and 10 million C-suite execs, aka the people you need for your business, on their platform. Target by job title, industry, company, and more.
So try LinkedIn ads. LinkedIn will even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign so you can try it for yourself. Just go to linkedin.com/MBD. That's linkedin.com/MBD. Terms and conditions apply, only on LinkedIn ads.
Everyone knows that President Trump loves to make a deal, but the one he struck with chip makers Nvidia and AMD might be his most controversial yet. Nvidia and AMD both agreed to send 15% of the revenues from AI chip sales in China back to the U.S. government in exchange for earning the licenses to let them sell there in the first place. The agreement covers sales from each company's scaled-down versions of their most powerful AI chips, the H20 for Nvidia and the MI308 for AMD. It is an unusual quid pro quo agreement, so unusual, in fact, that it's never been done before. The Financial Times talked to export control experts and came to the conclusion that no U.S. company has ever agreed to pay part of their revenues in order to obtain export licenses. Still, it fits a pattern under the Trump administration where the president often uses penalties like the imposition of a tariff in order to make companies do certain things like beef up domestic investments. Critics of the policy point to the fact that this is playing right into China's hands. If companies can earn the right to export sensitive tech in exchange for a fee, then where does that slippery slope end? What's next? Letting Lockheed Martin sell F-35s to China for a 15% commission, a former National Security Control Advisor, Liz Tobin, told the Financial Times. But the likes of Nvidia and AMD are happy to make the deal because it grants them access to the lucrative Chinese market again, which Bernstein analysts estimate would have been worth around $23 billion in additional revenue for Nvidia this year. Neal saw a lot of uses of the word unprecedented thrown out when describing this pact.
There was certainly an outcry by national security experts who worry that we are sending China the ability to compete with us in AI, where the U.S. has a lead, but it is dwindling by the day, as one business executive posted on X. If the chips are a national security concern, we shouldn't export them at all. If they are not, then we shouldn't be charging U.S. businesses for making money like some banana republic. That kind of encapsulates a lot of the criticism of this particular deal. But it is a huge win for Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang, who's been on this charm offensive on both sides of the Pacific. He's been at the White House a bunch of times. He's been in Beijing a bunch of times in order to persuade both of these governments to allow them to send chips to China, whether they're scaled down or not, because at one point it represented 20% of their sales. So Jensen Huang is, looking in the mirror and saying, like, I did a pretty good job here.
Yeah, remember, Nvidia made the H20 specifically for the Chinese market after Biden actually imposed these very tough export controls. But then in April, Trump administration said that they would ban those very same chips made for China, and then reverse course after Jensen Huang had a meeting with him in June, but then no export licenses were forthcoming after that initial agreement. So he went back to the White House, struck this deal, and so it was actually on the same around the same time that Tim Cook was in the White House as well. So there was a lot of wheeling and dealing going on there. So now we are in this world where not only are imports getting taxed, exports are suddenly getting taxed, which is kind of uncharted territory.
It's uncharted territory, and legal experts are wondering whether it is constitutional, because the Constitution expressly forbids taxing exports. So there might be legal challenges coming, as there have been with tariffs. Now, Nvidia's case, this is how Jensen Huang persuaded Trump. He said, we need to treat these chips or other AI infrastructure like the US dollar. We need to export it around the world so we get Chinese AI companies on an American tech stack. And Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick agreed. He said, we want other countries addicted to American technology. Apparently that persuaded the president, along with the potential for billions of dollars in new revenue.
And then ironically, after all this hullabaloo came out yesterday, China issued a notice to a lot of companies saying, avoid using Nvidia H20 processors. We do not want you using them, especially for government-related processes. So China is almost kind of backing up that viewpoint by saying, hey, we don't actually want you to get addicted to an American tech stack. So that complicates everything further. Everyone thought, oh, wow, Nvidia and AMD, they just unlocked these new revenue streams. Not so if you are a Chinese official.
Big picture here, some economic commentators like the Wall Street Journal's Greg Ip are saying that what we've been seeing over the past few months in the Trump administration is a move toward a, quote, state capitalism model that is a severe break from the way free markets have typically operated in the United States, where President Trump has come in and really imposed his will on the private markets in a way that we just haven't seen in the U.S. economy. Some recent examples, he demanded that Intel's CEO resign. He got this golden share when Nippon Steel took over U.S. Steel. He told Coke to change its formula. He told Walmart to eat the tariffs. He has accrued $1.5 trillion of promised foreign investment that he will direct himself. Economists generally do not like this because when the government picks winners and losers, it's not necessarily an efficient market. Just look at what happened with Intel. The CHIPS Act from the Biden era gave them $8.5 billion, and Intel has mostly squandered it. So there's an example of when the government intervenes too much in the private markets, you get a lot of inefficiencies and waste. The company that popularized the assembly line is moving on. Ford, whose founder Henry implemented the first moving assembly line in 1913, announced yesterday sweeping changes to its manufacturing methods as part of a drastic overhaul to its electric vehicle strategy. In what execs called a Model T moment for the company, Ford will invest $5 billion to produce a new family of affordable electric vehicles, beginning with a mid-sized pickup truck debuting in 2027 that costs $30,000, $10,000 less than the average price of a new car in the United States. But to make cheaper cars, you need a cheaper production process, and after years of tinkering in a Skunks Works lab, Ford thinks it's found a worthy successor to the assembly line. 3 assembly lines. Ford said it will scrap the traditional single conveyor line into a 3-branched assembly tree in which teams of employees can make the front, rear, and middle parts of the car separately before hitching them together at the end. Combined with a lighter, cutting-edge battery design, you get an EV that contains 20% fewer parts and can be produced 15% faster. This universal EV platform, as Ford calls it, will be introduced at its Louisville plant, which will receive a $2 billion makeover to create Ford's cars of the future. Will it work? Not even CEO Jim Farley is sure. There are no guarantees with this project. He said, we're doing so many new things. I can't tell you with 100% uncertainty that this will all go just right. It is a bet. There is a risk, but it is a risk Ford needs to take.
Yeah, Ford's EV division has been suffering of late. Over the last 2.5 years, it's lost $12 billion. It's already lost $2.2 billion in the first half of this year, and it's not heading in the right direction. Sales of its electric models have completely stalled out. They fell 12% in the first 6 months of the year. Its top 2 EVs, the Ford F-150 Lightning and the Mustang Mach-E, are both falling as well. So this was something that they thought was an existential threat to their business. They need to compete globally with the car companies producing cheap EVs out of China. So they literally went down to the drawing board, rethought their entire process. How do we move away from this single assembly line? Somehow tripling it makes it more efficient, but it is fascinating where they found these efficiency gains.
Yeah, they're going to give each worker group a kit, kind of like an IKEA thing that you unpack, and they say this will be a profound change in terms of storage and production layout. It will result in 84% less reaching over the fender, which I guess takes a lot of time, can be dangerous, and 63% less sitting in the vehicle installing parts.
And then an interesting aspect of this is, what does the United Auto Workers think? This is the powerful auto union in the United States, because this factory, Ford has said, will require less workers. Usually that's something that prompts protests from the United Auto Workers, but instead they have been bought in from the very beginning, because one of the big things it does is change the ergonomics of doing this work. Remember, it is hard work making a car. You got to reach in. These are heavy parts. And so there's less twisting, less turning, and hopefully a more safe environment. So even though this is actually reducing the amount of workers, UAW people are on board with it because it makes it safer, and it just makes your body under less pressure.
And Ford is saying that if this goes well and we sell more cars, then we'll open up new plants and create more jobs. And I also, final note, I thought this was interesting about the competition, the competitive landscape that Ford thinks it's dealing with. It says its rivals isn't GM or Tesla or any other American or European car. They specifically pointed out China and these low-cost Chinese affordable cars that Ford CEO Jim Farley is absolutely worried about. He can't sleep at night. He said he went to China previously and called it the most humbling experience of his career. Their cost, their quality of their vehicles is far superior to what I see in the West. So China, Ford is coming for you. Days after getting sold to Skydance Media, Paramount is looking for a fight, and it may have just found one. Yesterday, the media company announced a deal to stream combat sports giant UFC in the U.S. for 7 years beginning in 2026. It won't come cheap. The deal is worth $7.7 billion in total, or an average of $1.1 billion per year. But it's a sign that under new ownership, Paramount is willing to spend big to aggressively make up ground in the streaming octagon. The UFC deal means that 43 events will stream on Paramount Plus, 30 fight nights, and 13 marquee lineups, some of which will be simulcast on CBS. And here's the part that's got UFC fans really excited. No more pay-per-view. ESPN, which currently has the UFC rights, put up a double paywall for certain premium matchups, meaning you had to pay for the streaming service and the specific fight on top of that. As the president of TKO Group, UFC's parent company, put it, the pay-per-view model is a thing of the past. What's on pay-per-view anymore? Boxing, movies on DirecTV. It's an outdated, antiquated model. So it was paramount to us, forgive the pun, where it's one-stop shopping, especially for our younger fans in flyover states. Speaking of TKO Group, they're on a heater as streamers pay up the nose for live sports rights. Its other property, the wrestling promotion WWE, just inked a deal with ESPN worth $1.6 billion to air WrestleMania and other big events. Its stock was up 9% yesterday. Toby, thoughts on this mixed martial art of the deal?
I think that there is a scarcity of sports properties available right now because Formula One rights are going to get snapped up by Apple. Major League Baseballs don't come up until 2028. So there's not that many, top shelf sporting properties available. And Paramount thought that they had to jump. David Ellison, who, leads the Paramount Skydance merger at this point, said that UFC is a unicorn asset that comes up about once a decade. He himself described himself as a UFC fan. So they spent a lot of money on this. I mean, before this deal closed, Paramount's entire market cap was $6.5 billion. This UFC deal is worth $7.7 billion. So the literal deal itself is worth more than the entire combined entity. So it's a good media property, though. One of the reasons why UFC events are pretty desirable for streamers is because they take place year round. There is no off season when it comes to fighting. There are 43 live events annually. So that's a pretty desirable property and that's why you saw them spend so much money to go after it.
And David Ellison, who's the CEO of this new company, has said, he's also the son of Larry Ellison, Oracle founder. He said, you can't cut to grow, and has pledged that Paramount will invest meaningfully in content to grow its platforms. We just talked about 2 weeks ago that it inked a deal with South Park that was worth $1.5 billion. It has about 78 million subscribers at the end of June. This is Paramount Plus, which is smaller than most of its rivals. Netflix is way ahead with over 300 million, but it is spending to try to get people to sign up for Paramount Plus and not have them cancel. Hey, if you can spend $13 a month to get UFC all year round, that is perhaps a compelling proposition for those fans.
Up next, let's talk about Tobys Trends. Welcome back to today's edition of Tobys Trends, where I splunk into the recesses of the business world to emerge with a trend you should keep your eye on. And today's trend is all about the four-wheeled menaces taking over America's public roads. I'm not talking about anything futuristic like Waymo or robo-taxis. I'm talking about the humble golf cart. According to the Wall Street Journal, suburban dwelling families far from manicured fairways are opting to hop into golf carts to run a quick errand or go for an evening cruise instead of their minivan or SUVs. Tweens love them too for the freedom they provide. But the rise of the golf cart cavalry has brought with it backlash. Drivers of normal cars say they clog traffic with their slow driving. Reckless teenage drivers make operating a cart on roads an unsafe affair. And laws vary across states when it comes to public road access, max speeds, and leaving home without a license plate. Some states have just said screw it, opting to let municipalities set their own rules. Still, it has done little to slow golf carts' roll. Carts that can handle the open road instead of just fairways have seen their sales jump in recent years. One sales exec from the cart maker Club Cart said that the U.S. market for that type of beefed-up cart is now worth $5 billion, up from $1 billion before the pandemic. Neal, I was talking with you before the show. Suburban golf cart culture was a foreign concept to you, but it's reaching all corners of America. If you weren't whipping a golf cart around as a kid, what the heck were you doing?
The New England mind can't comprehend this, I have to say. But then I went down to your neck of the woods in Western Florida to this one beach town, and everyone is rocking their golf carts. What was it like? Describe to me what having a golf cart culture was like in a town.
It really was more like the suburbia. One kid would have a golf cart, everyone piled on. I totally get why people are kind of mad at them because, you know, we weren't the most responsible of drivers. You're a teenager. Of course, you're doing some dumb stuff. But also, these are not your grandma's golf cart anymore. These things are street ready. Some of them come with seatbelts. They have headlights. They have turn signals that can cost up to $25,000. And some owners trick them out. One person in the Wall Street Journal article talked to, it had a turquoise frame, white seats, orange rims, four-wheel drive in case it snowed. He lives in Gaffney, South Carolina. And then also a dashboard that has a built-in refrigerator, sound system with 24 speakers that can light up and pulse with the rhythm of the music. So again, if you're thinking just puttering around, these things are basically cars at this point.
And you can kind of trick them out so they go above the max speed. Like, that's not really a huge issue. So if you go to a town hall meeting in your local municipality anytime soon, you know, there's a probably good chance that some resolution around whether we should allow golf carts are coming up. It was just rejected in Norwalk, Connecticut last year, and in Elburn, Illinois, a petition to get golf carts on the roads also was rejected. But in so many other municipalities, they are being allowed. People are saying it's way more social. It's much easier for us to get around. So, you know, that is the next frontier, I guess, in town fights.
There is certainly backlash, though. If you just go on to TikTok and you search up golf carts, there was this one video a guy in Florida posted where he filmed golf carts clogging a road in both directions. And he says, "We hate you. Get your golf cart off the road and drive a regular car." So there is certainly, obviously there's the danger aspect because if you have kids driving these around, like, it is a little unsafe. But then also if you are taking up road space from actual cars, people are going to get a little frustrated. So the golf carts are coming for your community. Whether you accept them, that's up to you. Now let's sprint to the finish with some final headlines. President Trump nominated a new commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics yesterday. The economist E.J. Antony will replace Erica McIntarfer, who Trump fired at the beginning of the month after a dismal July jobs report, accusing her of manipulating the data. Antony is the chief economist at the conservative-leaning Heritage Foundation. He was also a contributor to Project 2025, the policy blueprint designed to set goals for Trump's second term. Antony has been an outspoken critic of the BLS, namely the large revisions to jobs data seen recently. He posted on X last week that there are better ways to collect, process, and disseminate data. That is the task for the next BLS commissioner. But economists across the political spectrum have pushed back on the nomination, saying that introducing partisanship to the BLS could hurt the integrity of the agency's data moving forward. Neal, Antony is certainly a controversial pick, but one thing is certain: he enters a job market that is slowing after 2 sharp downward revisions of May and June job gains.
Yeah, even if he doesn't want to acknowledge it. Jessica Rydell, who's the former economist at the Heritage Foundation, which is a conservative think tank that Antony is now the chief economist of, posted on X last night. The articles and tweets I've seen him publish are probably the most error-filled of any think tank economist right now. I hope we see better at BLS. He still has to get confirmed by the Senate, where he'll certainly be under fire for his credentials, whereas McIntyre had 1,300 citations with her papers that she's published. Antony is just 5 years out of grad school. He appears to have published 1 article and 1 citation. So his experience appears to be lacking compared to previous commissioners at this particular post. And he is a very much advocate of the MAGA worldview and is not a nonpartisan technocrat, which economists and businesses and investors want, because they want to ensure the integrity of this data. And we'll get the first test in a few hours. The BLS will release the CPI, the Consumer Price Index report, which will tell us the inflation numbers for July.
Cannabis stocks jumped yesterday after President Trump said he's considering downgrading marijuana to a less dangerous drug classification. Companies who are linked to the cannabis industries like Tilray, Canopy, Aurora, and more saw their share price go nuts after Trump gave this sagging industry a much-needed boost. Cannabis is currently classified as a Schedule I drug that puts it next to substances like heroin and LSD, but the reclassification floated by the Trump administration would put it on the same level as Adderall, which gave the sector hope that it could lead to better access to capital from banks and bolster medical research going forward, opening up a broader market in the process. Now, this isn't federal legalization. That's a totally separate issue, but still one of the first positive pieces of news for a sector that is still trading well below the peak it reached in 2021.
These companies did go nuts. Tilray was up 42%, Kronos Group was up 16%, Canopy Growth up 26%, and these stocks are trading in the $1 to $2 range, so they are pretty volatile, but you can see that the potential rollback that Trump is floating has boosted their share prices, because it would allow them to access things like tax breaks or the banking system or other incentives that they're just cut out from right now because of federal regulations. What does Trump think about cannabis? Well, he seems to be a little wishy-washy. He told reporters yesterday, for pain and various things, I've heard some pretty good things, but for other things, I've heard some pretty bad things. And both sides of the pro-legalization movement and the anti-legalization movement have gotten in his ear with millions of dollars in lobbying. They just held a $1 million per plate fundraiser at his New Jersey golf course just a few months ago, where there were a bunch of CEOs from cannabis companies making their case. The world is a scary place, but apparently not scary enough, because horror movies are having a record year at the box office. Last weekend, the horror mystery Weapons raked in a spine-chilling $42.5 million at North American theaters, adding to the genre's historic haul this year. As of Monday, the share of ticket sales for horror movies in the U.S. this year was 14.4%, up from 9.8% last year, and the highest percentage in history. People have flocked to theaters for Sinners, 28 years later, Final Destination Bloodlines, and now Weapons, but I am not people, because I enjoy sleeping at night. Still, even without my patronage, 6 horror movies this year have grossed more than $50 million at the global box office. Toby, these stats are terrifying.
To me, this is kind of like young people in spicy food. People just want to feel something. It is fascinating, though, to see the original horror movies kind of pick up steam here, because Sinners, that is an original movie. Actually, that was the highest grossing original movie of the 2020s so far. But then you have some sequels like 28 Years Later, Final Destination, Bloodlines. But then you have something like Weapons again, which is a completely original story. So it looks like audiences are dipping their toes into these original horror flicks. The last time the U.S. had a really big horror year was 2021, and that was, again, mostly dominated by franchise follow-ups. Again, haven't seen a single one of these movies, though, because I'm like you. I watched Jurassic Park, the newest one, in theaters. Objectively, not a scary movie whatsoever. Full eyes covered, ears covered. I just can't do the tension in a theater setting, so I am not contributing to these record box office numbers for sure.
Finally, you probably have missed hearing her name on this podcast, but Taylor Swift announced a new album in her typically calculated way. At 12:12 a.m. this morning, August 12th, Swift unveiled her 12th studio album called The Life of a Showgirl. It'll be her first record since the Tortured Poets Department, which came out last year and was indeed torturously long, and the first since she bought back her masters from private equity firm Shamrock Capital. If you want more details, you won't have to wait long. Swift was also revealed as the surprise guest on the New Heights podcast, hosted by her boyfriend Travis Kelce and his brother Jason. The full episode will premiere on Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Welcome to the podcasting club, Taylor.
So the Instagram clip kind of teasing this launch has 55 million views already as of 5:45 this morning. It was posted at midnight, so this is probably going to be one of the most downloaded podcast episodes ever. Also, Neal, I'm already engaged, so you need to find a global pop star to date so she can come on and announce her album on our show to boost downloads. Dua Lipa just got married, so she's out. So maybe Sabrina Carpenter, just floating it out there, just putting it out there.
I think that is all the time we have. Okay, thanks so much for starting your morning with us. Have a wonderful Tuesday. If you have any thoughts or feedback on today's show, send a note to Morning Brew Daily at morningbrew.com. Toby, what is today's password clue?
Today's clue is the password's middle two letters form a U.S. state abbreviation. The password's middle two letters form a U.S. state abbreviation. If you missed yesterday's clue, go back and listen to Monday's episode. And to submit your answer, remember you only get one answer. Go to the Google link in our show notes or on Instagram. And while you're down there, sign up for trivia, why don't you?
Let's roll the credits. Emily Milliron is our executive producer. Raymond Liu is our producer. Our associate producers are Olivia Graham and Olivia Lake. Hair and makeup is doing donuts in a golf cart. Devin Emery is our president, and our show is a production of Morning Brew.
Great show today, Neal. Let's run it back tomorrow.